With every match, a warrior is born. Step inside the ring. This is the Whip Podcast with your host, devastating Daryl Pace and Deshaun Whipdog Whipple.
An Insiders Podcast, a.k.a. The Whip Show. Listen, thank you guys for always tuning in. I mean, we've been having some really great episodes. Thank you for checking out my boy last week, author Vincent Berry. He just had his book, Wrestleville Part 2, a great book. If you haven't checked it out already, make sure you get the book. Over 50 stories for some of the greatest pro wrestlers, up and coming and current in the world. Also, make sure you keep checking out the other shows on the Whip Podcast Network. My boy, Mr. Joe Walker, railing with the Word Heavyweight Champion as he gives his take on everything in the wrestling world. And the coach, his ass, for the Coach's Corner. Oh, I don't even want to talk about him right now because I got an amazing special guest that is way too awesome to even talk about the coach. Today's guest, and I'm going to be honest, I feel like I'm in royalty right now. This lady is one of the people that makes the wrestling world move. She is part of the historical magazine, The Pro Wrestling Illustrated. She is a contributor to the best wrestling podcast / radio show in the world, Busted Open. I want to introduce you guys to Miss Candace Cordelia. How are you doing, ma'am?
Good. I'm doing real good, Deshaun, and thank you for that lovely intro. I mean, it's making my night so far, so thank you.
That's what's up. I hope I wasn't too extra for you. I kind of go way up sometimes. It's just a thing that I do. I can't help it, man. Well, first and foremost, welcome again to the Whip Show podcast. I know you're a very busy young lady, so thank you for spending your time in a maybe 45 minutes or so with us and our viewers. Now, before we get started, first thing I want to drop off with is this. Candace, when you first of all, where did the wrestling love come from with you first? Let's start there.
That's a great question. So it's so crazy because I was just talking to a very, very special person and interviewing this person, and everyone will get to see this coming up soon. But I mention it because I was thinking about that question as we were talking, and my love of wrestling came not that long ago, actually. It started around 2015, which for some, it may seem like light years, and for some, it doesn't seem that far away, but that was the year when I really started to take notice of wrestling in a way that I said to myself, I can't believe that I was not a fan of wrestling when I was a child. It was something that I was knew of and recognized mainly because of the WWE, because WWE was so universal and still is. But I just wasn't aware of the major players and who was in the WWE until I met a coworker that was really passionate about wrestling. And I was saying to myself, I didn't even know this was still a thing. I didn't know it was still around. I didn't know anyone that watched wrestling at all. No one in my life at that time watched wrestling. So because of this person's passion, I was thinking to myself, okay, I need to step back and see what's going on because I need to see what's up. So I started watching WWE, and that was around the time when we had the Sasha Banks and Charlotte feud. We had the Bella Twins. We had John Cena. We had Bailey, and NXT Black and Gold was a thing. And that's when I was like, okay, this is amazing, because I immediately saw that it really held all of the things that I love: sports and entertainment, the athleticism, the theatrics of everything, the costuming, everything came together in just one big package that I just fell in love with. And above all, the storytelling. So I really was immersed in the storytelling at the time and seeing the different characters, the faces, the heels, and I just was all into it. And it was also not just that, but Total Divas. In other interviews I've stated, that was actually the pre-introduction for me to WWE, watching Total Divas, because I was a huge fan of E! News, because, as a host growing up, I watched a lot of E, a lot of BET, 106 in Park, MTV TRL, all of that good stuff. So E News was a thing for me, Maria Menounos. And then not only also finding out that Maria was a wrestler, is a wrestler and a wrestling fan, I watched Total Divas. And I was like, hold on, what is this? Because E was known and still is for reality television. But I'd never seen a reality show that really looked at the world of wrestling and the behind the scenes. And that was really intriguing to me. And it was also awesome to see the woman of the company and what they were going through. And as a fellow woman, seeing that was amazing. So I was hooked on Total Divas and started watching WWE. And that's where everything just came together for me. And then I started going to live shows, and yeah, now here I am. So it's a long journey.
See, that's so dope right there, because that's actually totally different than most people's entry into liking the business. Most people say, oh my God, my uncle took me to the first show or whatever when I was 7 and I fell out of love with it and I caught back. But you kind of jumped in after you were already an adult. That is pretty amazing. So with you saying you liked E, because I was a big fan of E television shows as well. To this day, I'm mad they won't bring back E True Hollywood Stories. I'm just saying. I used to love it.
Seriously.
Even it was always good when people like got in trouble. I'm gonna tell you, those were the best ones, though. I'm telling the truth. But anyway, like, did you have a journalistic background? Did you go to college for anything like that?
Yeah. So once again, my background is really, it's not the norm. So even though I am in the world of journalism, I started off as an actor, and I still do acting. I'm actually getting back into that more heavily at the moment. But I started off as the kid that wanted to do entertainment. That was my whole thing. Like, I wanted to be the kid actor. My parents were like, no, entertainment.
Seriously?
Yeah, especially my mom. They were very big on education. So I did theater, and I did all the other things that you do when you're a kid, all the extracurriculars. I did a lot of sports, and I was very into creative writing. So I was always writing song lyrics and poetry and things like that. But my parents were like, yeah, no, you want to be on Nickelodeon? You want to be on Disney?
Did you tell them, have they ever heard of Nick Cannon? Have they ever heard of Kenan and Kel? They're like the biggest stars in the world.
It's for a reason. And I still held that dream and that one. And after a certain point, I started taking acting classes and doing theater in school. So that was a safe haven for me and a way for me to express myself besides writing and sports and all of that. But I did not go to journalism school. I actually learned on the field. So I went to school for English and theater, double minor in creative writing and theater. And it was amazing. I went to Syracuse University, which was very cold, but it was awesome. And I had my core group of friends, and it was great. It was really great. And then we'd go to New York during the summers and come back home also to Philly. So I had like the best of both worlds. But I did not have a traditional journalism background. I learned on the field. And I just dove in. So I started writing for websites. I started hitting people up just randomly. That's the type of person I am. I would just do my research and just say, hey, I see you have this music website. Do you need an intern? And that's how I got started in college. So I started off doing internships in local magazines in Philly and things like that. And then it just grew and grew and grew to the point where at a certain stage, I moved to the New York area. And when I moved to New York, I thought I was going to do both. I was going to go there to do acting and also dive into journalism and hosting in any way that I could. And the hosting kind of took over a bit. I had my day job, but it was at this point too, I still was not in wrestling at all. Like I was just focused actually on doing things in entertainment, doing music and talking about film and things like that. So that was a huge focus besides being an actor. But I did not go to journalism school. I almost did. I thought about it, but I decided to stick with English. And my way of just learning everything was literally on the field, in newsrooms. And I've been fortunate to work for companies like ABC and I've written for places like Entertainment Tonight and BET. For me, that was the best way for me to learn. Some people will go to journalism school and that worked for them. For me, having that added pressure of just getting the job done, being in newsrooms with people who had gone to journalism school and learning from my peers and my mentors and my editors, that was the best way for me to learn. So everyone's different, but I'm grateful that I was able to learn and with some pretty big companies and just being thrown into the fire and
That
just
is
going. So yeah.
with you saying that right now, I want to make sure I give you your flowers because that is amazing. Besides the wrestling thing, I work in radio, and my co-host's name is AK Dash, a young lady. So maybe that's a female thing because she had never did radio before, but she dives right in, just like you said that you do. I mean, like, man, that's amazing with no fear. So with that no fear mentality, were you always like that? Like, were you always kind of, I know I can do this. I know I'm strong enough to do this. Did you always like go right for what you wanted your whole life?
Yeah, that's just been my personality, and I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was just something that I was born with. That might sound cliche, but I've always been really driven, and I've always known that I've wanted to have a life that I would craft myself and really design myself. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to end up in entertainment in some way. I didn't grow up thinking that I would be in sports, and definitely not in wrestling. It wasn't a dream of mine. It just wasn't in my lexicon, but I definitely had a feeling, wherever that feeling came from, and I can't explain it, that I would be in the entertainment industry in some way, shape, or form. And I just have always been driven. It's just something that I never could be able to sit down unless it was to read a good book, but I was never one to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna not do that because I'm scared. And there was a certain point where I had teachers. I remember one teacher specifically in high school. She literally told me one day, she was like, just pick one path, just calm down. Like, and I was like, why is the teacher telling me to like just well, she to this day, she's one of my favorite teachers, but
So
she was just like, yeah, you just gotta step back. It's okay, you know. You're a teenager, just live your life. And I'm sitting there thinking, no, I need to go. What are you talking about? I'm young, like I gotta go. There's none of this. So yeah, that's just always been me.
I love it. The world was at your hands and you had to grab it. I love that, man. So with that being said, you know, before we get a little bit further into this wrestling world, you did say you acted a little bit. I want you to name drop a little bit. I want you to go ahead and let us know if there's any pieces that we can go ahead, whether we find them on YouTube, Amazon Prime. You know, people watching that Tubi right now. So go ahead and drop one or two.
I haven't gotten on Tubi yet or Amazon Prime. That'll come. I think one of the most major things that I did, and it might be on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube. So I was in this documentary that aired. It was a local documentary, Philly, and it was about the yellow fever pandemic that happened. I know that's morbid, but it was a historical documentary and it aired on ABC. So it was this huge thing. We had a red carpet and everything. We had a whole premiere. And just seeing myself on television, it was really surreal. And like, I didn't have a huge whopping part. I was one of the main characters, so you can see me, and it was more so you saw me in certain scenes silently doing my thing as one of the historical characters. But that was such a huge get for me because I had been, you know, in other things. Like I don't even know if my scene is there. I think my scene got cut. I was on set for the After Earth M. Night Shyamalan movie. But I honestly, for years after I filmed that, I didn't even watch it. And then one day because I was like, I don't know what happened. I just didn't watch it because sometimes I've heard other actors say this, some actors just don't like to see themselves on screen. And I'm kind of one of them. Like for hosting, I don't mind, but acting, I'll do the thing and then I'll be like, oh, I can wait. I don't need to see it. So like, I don't need to see it. So for like the longest time, I did not see After Earth. And then I think I watched like the beginning. I still haven't seen that movie in all of its totality, but I watched enough because I wanted to see if my scene was there. And I think my scene was cut. I was supposed to be like one of the extras fleeing, you know, towards the beginning. But yeah, just even though I'm not in that movie, I'm kind of like uncredited extra, just like being there and working with M. Night Shyamalan like that, it's like that was a valuable experience, because just being able to stand there and hear how he talks to the actors and things done and being a part of that, process was really cool. So those two things, in terms of my resume, I will always look at them dearly. And then I've been in a lot of really cool web series and stuff like that. Some of them I don't know if they're still up, they might be, but I do have an IMDb page, and I'm on Actors Access and Backstage. So I definitely have my acting repertoire that I've started, and I took a break, but now I'm getting back into the thick of it. So along with everything else I'm doing, so and you're getting the exclusive on that, because I haven't really, only my close friends and family know I'm getting back into acting. So you're the first person.
Woo! Yes.
So yeah.
I feel so special right now. I love it. I love that. So with that being said, guys, you heard it. We got an exclusive. So when y'all start seeing her, not just in the wrestling world, you know where you got it from, right here at the Whip Show. Now, I want to ask you this. Next up, how does all this take you to the pro wrestling world and being a part of Pro Wrestling Illustrated?
Yeah, so after getting more into WWE and seeing the pay-per-views and really getting in eyes and going to the live shows, because that was another huge experience. It's one thing watching on TV, but going to the live show, I think that's where the obsession kind of sets in for folks, and including myself. But there was a day when I was watching a pay-per-view, and I saw Renee Young, called Renee Young at the time. And I immediately was just like, wait a minute, that's a job? You can do that in WWE? What are we? And it just looks so amazing and glamorous and really cool, because I had never, like I said, I didn't grow up watching wrestling. I knew who Mean Gene is, and I knew that there were persons who did hosting in a capacity in broadcasting, but seeing a woman do it, it's a completely different ball game. So when I saw Renee, interviewing the wrestlers, I was like, I can do that. There was no question. I was like, I can do that. How do I do that? So one thing led to another. And like I said, I love to do research. So I started asking around in terms of how does one interview for these shows? And that's when I get introduced to the whole wide world of independent wrestling, which I did not know existed at all. So at the time I was living in Jersey, and let me tell you, I was blown away by the promotions that are in Jersey alone. Like, I was just floored. So I said to myself, I'm going to do some more research and look up some of these promotions and see which promotions are closest to either where I am in Jersey or Philadelphia, where I'm originally from. So I went through a different list, and I just started going on Twitter. And I went to Twitter after having asked around a few places here and there. I went on Twitter, started doing like random searches. I just typed in like wrestling promotions in New Jersey. And then I came across one now known as Catalyst Wrestling. So like I said, you already know that I just go for things. So I just found their email address, emailed them, gave them my whole spiel, my resume, my headshot, and I just let it go. I was like, whatever happens, let it go. Don't know where this is going to lead. Less than 5 minutes later, I get an email back, and one of the promoters is like, can you come, to our show?
Whoa. Did you say 5 minutes? Oh, they was ready for you.
I'm not exaggerating, because when I say less than 5 minutes, I'm not exaggerating. So it took a very short amount of time for them to get back to me, which surprised me, because I was thinking, okay, I might not hear back from them. As an actor and someone that works in journalism too, you get used and have to get used to rejection and hearing no's. So I was just thinking, this might not hear back. Heard back from them. They said, yeah, can you come down? At the time it was, I believe, Jersey City area. Can you come down to one of our shows and check us out? And I did. Mind you, I didn't know what I was getting into, didn't know what I was in for. I just mentally prepared myself for whatever. So I went down there, and they immediately threw me into doing interviews. And I'm asking a million questions, because I'm like, wait, who is this? What is this? which character is this? So like the journalist I am, I ask the questions, get all the information I can in the moment. And I just, they threw me once again into the fire, asked questions. It was a whole day, but it was really fun. And then afterwards I was asked, what I thought about everything. Did I like it? And I did. And that's how my journey started. And it's really wild thinking back on it, because that was my first show. My second show, still learning the ropes, and I'm interviewing people like MJF, and it's just like, that's how the independent world is. And I'm really grateful. There's a lot of people that are, whether they're in the indies or they're in different promotions or they're on television, that I remember I've interviewed in the past. And it's really cool seeing those people progress and do what they love to do in a grander scale. And it's amazing. But that's how I started. It literally was just like one thing after the other. And then it just eventually grew into what I'm doing now. But with PWI, that progression, it didn't start right away, because of course, as we know, the pandemic happened.
Right.
And during the pandemic, there were no live shows. So I had to correct course and think, okay, how am I going to do what I do with interviewing, but not at the shows? And then I corrected myself into getting into virtual. So virtual interviews. And I was contacted by PWI, Kevin McElvaney, who is the editor-in-chief. He saw what I was doing with one of my day jobs. I was writing for Bustle at the time, and he hit me up and he said, I see you're a writer and you're into wrestling, and I'm looking at everything that you've done, and your work with Bustle is really good, would like to know about your thoughts getting into PWI and writing for us. And that's how that started. So that just led into what it is now, which is the contributing print side, being a columnist, and then also hosting my show Face Turn with Candace Cordelia. So yeah, it's just been a journey. It's been a journey.
Man, that is such an amazing story already. And guys, see, y'all didn't know y'all was gonna get inspiration and motivation today too. You get a little bit of everything on this show, y'all. You better make sure you get this information. Now, speaking of PWI, I know you do research. So historically, that is one of the biggest pro wrestling magazines. I mean, it was our Bible. It was our almanac for years. I mean, I know guys that if they got their name in that PWI 500 one time, they still have it on their wall from 25 years ago. Did you really understand how big the history of Pro Wrestling Illustrated was?
I really did, because even prior to being approached to write for PWI, there was a time, and this was before, when Kevin was not the editor-in-chief yet, but there was a time I actually approached PWI and emailed them because I was curious about writing for them at that time. That was a few years prior. At the time, they did not have any openings. But even then, from then till now, I knew of the history, but I just didn't know how massive it was for wrestling fans until actually talking to other wrestling fans, especially being a part of Busted Open, the conversations that happen on Twitter and hearing people's thoughts about like you said, the PWI 500. I'm really, really grateful to be a part of history, with this magazine, because it means a lot. And especially as someone who is, African-American and West Indian American, it means a lot to be a part of it, because I have people just saying, you inspire me, and I don't even think about it when I'm doing my work, but to see other people that look like me saying that and knowing that I'm making an impact in that way, just because of my heritage alone, and being a part of this world that has, for so long, a lot of people that look like us have felt like we haven't belonged in the world of wrestling. Right. I definitely recognize it, and I'm grateful for it. And, people's kind words mean a lot. So I'm still learning every day, though. Writing and working with PWI allows me to learn even more, which is a blessing. So yes, every time I'm learning everything every day. There's a lot to learn wrestling.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, sis. Keep it up. But since you went there and we talked, you were on Busted Open. That's why I heard about you. Shout out to Dave LaGreca. Love Dave as well. I went to WrestleMania last year. I went to their roast last year for LaGreca. But we talked about that PWI 500. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for making my guy, Roman Reigns, #1. We the ones, Tribal Chief. I'm down with all of that. You already know. I love it, Oos. I love it. But do you realize that with the PWI 500, one, I know I don't even want to go into the criteria because you kind of talked about that a little bit on Busted Open, but it really could affect guys' career. I mean, it really could affect some of the wrestlers' careers. If they get positioned even at number 500 or 498, that could get them more bookings. Did you ever realize it was that important that you have a hand in moving some of these pro wrestlers' careers forward?
Yeah, I didn't even realize until being a part of the committee, and I knew it was important prior, but actually having a hand in helping others succeed means a lot. And it's hard because, and I've said this on Busted Open before, we can't go to every independent show, we can't go to all the WWE and AEW shows, MLW, etc. But we really try to just seize the opportunity and look at what's happening and look at what people are doing, even if it's just watching a match, seeing what's happening on AEW Dark, et cetera, et cetera. People will send me videos of their matches as well, which I invite. I'm not mad at it at all. I've seen some really cool promos that people send me, and they'll just be like, "Hey, can you look at my promo? Let me know what you think." And I love that.
I will never cut you off. I just told you about my friend AK Dash. She's just watching. Could you say hi, AK Dash, right quick?
Hey, AK, how are you?
I'm sorry.
Love that. I love
that woman power. I gotta shout it out. That's my sis too. But
I love it. Thanks for watching.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So yeah, it's a lot of having all that power in your hands. It can be a heady experience because you want to make sure that you're being as diplomatic as possible. However, like you stated, there's this criteria that we have to adhere to. So the amount of time that we pour into just looking over everything is meticulous. And, we sit in it, well, now because of the pandemic happening, we sit in a virtual room and we look over everything and we see the numbers and all of that good stuff. And then we put in just our thoughts, and it's a lot, but I'm happy to know that, seeing some names and seeing how they've progressed after, just like you stated, you're right. After you see a person on the PWI 500, there's something that happens in which they're able to book more shows. But I also think that some of those wrestlers end up gaining even more confidence, which is nice, because wrestling can be it's an isolating sport. It's hard. I just don't think some people realize how hard it is, not just physically, but mentally, to be a wrestler, because you have to do so much. Mm-hmm. And you have to stay current and you have to be on top of your game, not just in the ring, but with everything else, from your presentation to your marketability skills, to your social media, which is a whole other job, it seems, in and of itself, to making sure that you're on top of your promos and your nutrition. And many wrestlers want to go to bigger promotions. So they do the reps that they can do in the indies, but ultimately, some of them do want to go to WWE. Some of them want to go to AEW, MLW, Impact, so on and so forth. So to see their name in that PWI 500, I think also really builds their confidence and lets them know that, yeah, I can do this. This is something that's well worth it. And we look at everything within the criteria. But it's hard, especially because even though 500 is a lot of names, but there are well more than 500 wrestlers in the
whole. I think we got thousands. I mean, it's got to be at least 2,000-3,000.
Absolutely. I would say more, because we look at things internationally. And then if you look at the women's 150, I personally think there's going to come a point where we have to make it a women's 200, because it's hard to even, pare down the list. And the 150 used to be the 100. The 150 is quite new. So it's hard just on numbers alone, because there's so many people that we think are very talented that deserve to be on the list, but then you have to start from the top and move to the bottom. And yeah, it's like the prior year, it's like, yeah, we got to, or this year alone, we're looking at for the 500 Roman, and then we got to go all the way down the list. And even with that, there's going to be controversy because everyone has their opinion. Everyone thinks that that person should have been number 10. But
I saw the boy MJF crying. It's all good. He'll be okay.
Oh, I love MJF.
Yeah. Well, you know, Candace, I want to flip the script just a little bit because now it's time for a segment that we do on this show. It's called the mark out moment. And what the mark out moment is, I'm not saying that you're going to be, oh my God, I can't believe I'm at The Rock. But you're actually in the business now. That moment when you're like, damn, I'm working with such and such, or I'm standing next to such and such, or Ric Flair knows me and the fan in me is going crazy, but I'm trying to hold it in. Candace, what was your mark out moment?
Jeez, I had a ton. I'm trying because it's weird for me because coming from entertainment news, I feel like I don't want to say desensitized, but I've met so many celebrities as it is just in like music and film and stuff that, and I'm not saying wrestling, it doesn't equate to that, but my mentality has always been like, there are people just like us. But I'm trying to think in wrestling. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to think WWE type, being at Double or Nothing last year, I think that whole experience was a mark out for me just because it was the first show. Well, before that I'd been to an MLW show, but it was the first like big like I'm saying PLE because I'm used to WWE speak, pay-per-view. Right. It was the first pay-per-view that I went to for AEW, but it was also the first where I was able to conduct interviews in person. Like I interviewed Jade Cargill and Thunder Rosa, which was really cool. But I think just, because pandemic and we were all cooped in, and being able to go to Vegas and being able to see everyone, and also just being able to chill and just see people in their element on the AEW roster, that in and of itself was a really cool mark out moment for me, because I think besides the pandemic and us having been cooped up, I haven't felt that in a while. Like I haven't felt that spark since working behind the scenes and doing backstage interviews. The in-person element of things is just totally different, obviously, than virtual. But that whole experience being in Vegas and just like, interviewing and going to the AEW karaoke they had was hilarious. That was one of the funny.
Wait a minute. AEW did karaoke?
Yeah. So
you got to tell us some of the songs they did. I got to hear this.
Oh my goodness. So I'm believing this is an annual thing. So when they do Double or Nothing, they have this karaoke night, which was really fun. It was really cool. I did not sing. I didn't go up to sing at the time. I was like, I'm going to sit because I wasn't prepared. Well, I guess you don't have to be prepared for karaoke, but I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, I just want to be here and just chill. But it was cool seeing, it was great seeing like Orange Cat. Did Orange Cassidy go up? Yeah, I believe so. I know Eddie Kingston did. Sonny Kiss obviously did. Sonny's.
I know Sonny was out I know it was wild. I know it had to be over.
Oh yeah, amazing. Nyla Rose, amazing. A lot of people just went up and sang, and it was cool because you have to remember, they're outside of the ring. It's just they're doing their thing. They were super nice to the fans. Meeting Powerhouse Hobbs was cool, and that there were some really nice moments. Meeting Ricky Starks was great. Like, they're really cool people. They really are. So it's one thing, and that's cool to know, because you see people on television, and it's like one thing, but then seeing them outside and seeing how they interact with the fans, super nice. Just yeah.
Did you go to WrestleMania in Dallas last year by any chance?
I did not. I did not. I have not been to a Mania yet. I'm hoping to, or I'm planning to cut that this year. So Hollywood would be my first Mania.
And I'm telling you right now, it is. I went when it was in Detroit, when it wasn't, But I went last year in Dallas for the whole week. It is
Yeah.
amazing. You just made me think about, because you talked about AEW doing karaoke. Well, Wale does Wale Mania, and I'm gonna tell you, Omos doing 99 Problems. Listen, my life was made when I saw him do karaoke. It was amazing. It was woo. So definitely go to Hollywood, please. If you're gonna have a great time, you're gonna enjoy it. It is
I'm
amazing.
manifesting it. It's I'm planning, hoping that comes through. But yeah, that would be an amazing first time going to Mania, because I love LA and I'm ready for some sun, even though we barely had a winter, but I'm ready for some sun.
For sure, for
Barely
sure,
had a
for
winter, but
sure.
I'm cool. I love LA. I love just the vibes out there, and I want my In-N-Out burger. Every time I go to LA, I need an In-N-Out burger. I'll have my juices any other day, but I need that one day.
For In-N-Out burger.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I don't have that here, so it's like, and we're waiting. We're still waiting.
One day.
I don't know.
So before we get out of here, I do want to get into some of the current wrestling product that we got going on.
Okay.
Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and the Bloodline. I'm hearing people say they think this is almost an Oscar award-winning storyline. I personally think it's amazing myself. What do you think about that right there, the whole storyline? Talk a little bit about it, and are you upset we're not getting the People's Champ Rock in some form or fashion in this whole thing?
Okay, I'll start backwards. So with The Rock, I'm not upset at all. I've said this before in another podcast. The Rock is a busy man. Like the man has $7 Productions. The XFL is getting its gears going into this brand new first season and its new reincarnation. He has the Young Rock show. The man, yes, he could show up at Mania, but if he doesn't, I really would not be mad. I really wouldn't, because like you stated, we have this amazing storyline already that, to be quite honest, I was so sure and certain, I'm like 95% still sure that Cody's going to be the one to take the title off Roman, but now we have Sami Zayn in the mix, and now I'm thinking, between now and then, some things might change.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be very possible that Sami comes through and, he could end up a title holder. So, and that's the joy and the power and beauty of a good storyline. Sometimes things change in ways, especially if you're doing writing for live television. Sometimes you have to have things that, just take us on a journey that no one was expecting. So it's really cool to see that this is happening. At least I think it is. Some people are upset, but I think it's really cool that we're seeing this taking place and transforming before our eyes before Mania, because and we have Elimination Chamber coming up. So I think once we get through Elimination Chamber, we're going to, it'll help set the precedent even more for what we could potentially see at Mania. The storyline is so gripping, and as not just a writer, but an actor, it gets me so excited to see performances like what they're doing in the ring, to see that they are really into it. Like, I can tell when someone is, just reciting their lines and trying to get by. But there's a switch that I can also see when a person is really, they believe what they're saying and they're really deep in their character. And it just is so natural and it just flows. And that's what I'm seeing between all three of those guys, like Roman, Sami, and Cody. Like, I love how Cody steps in the ring now and he's all about, like, everyone's just like, okay, let's get ready for church. We're gonna be here for a sermon.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because when he gets in the ring and he talks, you get so enveloped in what he's saying, and you just get your eyes off of the screen. And what he did with Paul Heyman recently on Raw was, like, this is taking the story and giving it an extra layer. That's just, we want to see what happens. That is the power of wrestling, the storytelling. We cannot wait to see what happens. And yeah, they're doing amazing work. Emmy award winning. Yeah, I would say it's something that it's award worthy. It's award worthy, I feel. And some people will say, "Oh, well, it's just wrestling," but I'm like, they're doing fantastic work. I'm seeing this as an actor. What I'm seeing, I can tell they're into it. I can
Yes.
tell that they're really feeling what they're doing, and it shows. And it's just awesome to see.
And for you, I mean, who else would know any better? A person that's worked in the entertainment world, you know what Emmy Award winning is. So, I mean, if she said it, y'all, I'm saying vote for it, nominate it.
But yeah, and I wonder if that day will come. I wonder if there will be a day when well, I don't know, because I don't think they're any of the talent are under SAG-AFTRA. I don't know. I'm very curious to know if a day will come where you can nominate.
You know, I actually think it will be, because I think it helps for the fact we talked about them a few seconds ago. When you got guys like The Rock and they're moving into Hollywood, and Dave Bautista, and they're looked at as real actors, not
Mhm.
just pro wrestlers. You know, I know you said you kind of relatively new in the business, but back in the day, Hulk Hogan did movies, but he was Hulk Hogan being in a movie. You know what I mean? It wasn't a real actor. But now that you got guys really transitioning into that, I think that will help the business as a whole, and they'll even start looking at the wrestling business in a different way.
You make a really great point. I mean, Dave Bautista, I tweeted this a few days ago. He was on daytime television saying he wants to be on Broadway. That's like a huge dream for him. And I was like, Dave, but I want to see that. I was like, that's so cool. And it reminds you that what a lot of these wrestlers have dreams and they want to do things besides wrestling, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of them love Broadway. A lot of them, love fashion. You have some that, I'm
Mhm.
sure they have dreams of being on television, like we saw Liv Morgan on Chucky. And
Yes.
there's so many different things that wrestlers and pro wrestlers can do, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm here for Dave Bautista being on Broadway, whether it's a musical or whether it's a play and a serious dramatic, he gets a serious dramatic role and it's fantastic and Tony Award winning. Like, I would love that.
For
So
sure. And I'm gonna tell you, it's almost like you threw the fastball right down the plate to me so I can hit the home run, because you set up my next segment. You talked about dreams. Well, my next segment is, if you, if you can pick your dream spot in the wrestling world, what would it be? You're not Candace, the writer for PWI. You are, if you want to be a pro wrestler, if you want to be a manager, if you want to write creative for WWE. But if you could pick a character or position for you, where would you be at?
oh my gosh. So for the longest, I wanted to do backstage interviews.
Mhm.
And that's something that I would still love to do. However, I would like to kind of do like what I love what Maria Menounos does. This is the second time I mentioned her because I love Maria. I grew up watching her, and I love what she's done with her career. I like that she does like the Hall of Fame, and she'll show up and do the red carpets, and then you'll see her in the ring for like the special. She'll do a ring announcing like for a really big match, or she'll wrestle. And I
Yeah.
want to be able to be that person that's like, yeah, I could just show up and do those things. If you want to throw me on commentary too, commentary for NXT, that will be fantastic. I love NXT. I love what they're doing. I love the concept. I love the NIL program. I'm so pro
Oh,
NXT.
yes.
And I just love what they're shaping up over there. But yeah, something like that where I could do things here and there and just, I'm that special correspondent or doing that. And yeah, if you want me to do like commentary for pay-per-views and show up and do things, pre-shows, that would be fabulous.
I,
Like,
I I love it. I love it. Now, with that being said, do you ever get tired? You already talked about going so hard. I'm the same type of way. I'm an energetic guy. I'm always moving, and people tell me to slow down. But when it's in you, it's hard to slow down.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just what we do. But what about you? Do you ever get that moment where I'm going to walk away from the business, or I'm going to walk away from whatever for a week or so, or do you just keep going? What do you do?
Oh, definitely. Like, and especially as someone that, I set my own schedule and I'm doing my own thing at the moment. Um, I'm at the point, and I told myself this year, I am going to, if I'm tired and I need a break, I'm going to say no. I just, I always now carve time out for myself. I think that's really important. You know, our society is so deep into hustle culture, but I'm
Right.
starting to also see a shift, and I embrace that shift. I'm seeing more people say, you know what? No, I'm all about self-care. If I want to go to the movies, I want to go get my nails done, want to, you know, go get a face mask and put it on and listen to, you know, bells, whatever you want to do.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
Whatever you want to do, I'm not mad at it. That's what I choose to do now. And yeah, I absolutely take a break. I'm already like this weekend, I told myself I'm going to do as much work as I possibly can, knock out all the things I want to do up until Thursday night. And then I'm doing a 3-day weekend. I'm electing to do that. I'm working ahead of schedule. And I was like, I'm going to this Saturday, day trip to New York, get my nails done, see friends, eat good food. Sunday, go check out the Super Bowl because you know I'm rooting for my Eagles.
Woo! There you go.
We are going to win. I don't care. People are like, how could you be so confident? No, because I know we're going to win.
Can you guys sports bet yet in Philadelphia?
Literally, I've never bet on sports before, but I really think I'm gonna do it this weekend.
Okay, okay.
I think because my brother he's the sports bet, like he knows all about that. So
Okay.
I think hit him up and say, how much should I bet on this? And like, what
Okay.
would you do? Because I'm going to win money. That's what's gonna, I know we are winning. And I'm going at the parade. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So
nice.
yeah. So yeah, this weekend, yeah, that's just an example, you know, take time to yourself. I work hard, but when it's time to rest and play, I really I'm serious about that. Like I'm serious
For
about
sure.
and if that means taking a nap, and sometimes it is hard to turn your brain off. Like if you're the
Right.
type of person that you're going, the adrenaline, there's sometimes I have to like sit for half an hour. Like it takes a while, but once I am unreachable, I'm unreachable. My phone goes on do not disturb, and I'm not checking my social media.
Man,
I'm serious about that now. Like it's not a game with that. So yeah.
Man, you sound just like my girlfriend when I call her. Hello, baby, I'm resting today. And I'll call you back later. Okay, fine. Okay. Take your time.
BNB, do not disturb. Like my friends will be like, yeah, so I got this ping message and this. I tried to call you. I was like, yeah, I was not playing. I don't know what mess. When I take it off, that's when I know you.
Salute. Well, my very last question before we get out of here. Like I said, I like the energy that you've been bringing all day long. I think that's amazing. And you've been doing it already, but I want you to inspire people. If you could give a word to a young lady out there that likes pro wrestling, she's a Sasha Banks fan, or she's a Bayley fan, or they just watch it and they have no idea how to even be a part of this, what would you tell them?
Oh my goodness. I would say, and the game has changed even from like a few years ago to now, because the pandemic I feel has really it's uprooted a lot of things, for maybe for bad, but I think for good. There's some good that's come out of this, especially for people that want to get into this industry. Now is a really good, interesting time to break in, and you can craft the life that you want in wrestling, and just make sure that you have a vision and a plan. It is doable. You can do it. There's different paths in different areas, and I would just say first and foremost, you know, just be open to any and all possibilities. Stay true to yourself. You know, don't let people tell you who you are. If you already know who you are, that's it. That's good enough. You are good enough. And just do a lot of research, you know, watch wrestling. Don't be scared to do things in a way that no one else has done it before. And just know that you already have the tools. You know, you don't have, like myself, I didn't go to journalism school. You don't have to have had to go to journalism school, but that doesn't mean that you can't be professional as well. See if you can grab the ear of a mentor. You know, try to get at least one mentor in this business that can help you, that can lend advice, someone that you respect, someone that you think will be able to give you the advice that you need. Especially for women in this field, you know, we're still trying to break barriers. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done. And it doesn't mean that we're not trying and we're not doing it. So if you're especially a woman and you're looking at this, you know, you can be in this business, you can do it. So many different things. You can do podcasting, you can work in the independence if that's what you want to do. I mean, there's I was just in a space for Gabe Sapolsky. I think he's running it right now. It's Wednesday. So if you see Gabe Sapolsky, you want to check out his Twitter spaces, I highly recommend it. He is someone that works within WWE. He's always scouting, and he gives a lot of fantastic advice. And I would say things like that for networking, go into Twitter spaces like that, try to gain mentors that can hear you. I've already said it, but I can't say it enough because I think it's very important. And yeah, be professional, be kind, be open to just anything and everything, know what you want, but also, think about like where you also could be in a few years. Like, what would you want to be doing? Where can you see yourself going? And like I said, there's so many avenues. It doesn't just have to be podcasting. It doesn't just have to be broadcasting. Right? Wrestling needs writers. Wrestling needs people who are good with creative design.
You ain't lying.
Wrestling needs creative minds that aren't necessarily always in tune with wrestling. Having a different viewpoint is very valuable. My coming from entertainment, I look at things more in a show business type way. And I found that is very valuable in this space. So utilize who you are, love who you are, and just know that growing and developing and not having it all figured out is okay. But yeah, that's one of the best things that I can tell you. And especially for women that want to get in this field, come through. This is a great time. We're seeing more women more now than ever before getting into space. Now is a good time to jump in and just know that the sky is really the limit for you, and have an idea of where you could possibly see yourself, but you don't have to have it all figured out. So be easy on yourself and be kind on yourself and just do the work.
There it is. You guys heard it, man. The woman is amazing. She already gave y'all all the game you need. But you know what, Candace, could you give them your contact information? Let them know how to get a hold of you, how they can follow you, and what you got coming up.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at Candace Cordelia, CA. It's right there on the screen if you can see it, DACE. You can also follow me on Instagram at thatgirlcandace16. And on my Instagram, I put up a lot of my different things that I'm doing with my interviews. So if you want to check out clips of my interviews that I do for PWI and Broadway World, because I also am in the entertainment space, you can check that out. Really fun stuff. And coming up, this year is going to be really cool. There's a lot of things both in wrestling and acting. It's going to be a year of surprises. So just stay tuned, because I definitely will have things coming up with PWI and Broadway World, but I'll have things that aren't even related to wrestling that I'm really excited about for everyone to check out. So when I tell you surprises galore. So just stay tuned. But all good things. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you had a great time on the show. It was amazing having you on here today. And definitely, if you're at WrestleMania, Hollywood, make sure you say what up to Whip. I'm gonna check you out. Oh, and we're having SummerSlam here in Detroit too. So if you're gonna come to the Detroit area,
yes,
August the 5th. In Ford Field right here in Detroit. So I'm going to throw a big SummerSlam party for that as well. So just keeping you posted.
Goodness. Then I have to, yes, thank you so much. I would love that.
Perfect. Well, guys, thank you once again for checking us out. The Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast. Thank you for always showing love. Make sure you follow this young lady. She gave y'all so many gems today. Make sure you go back and listen to all the other episodes of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast and check out our other contributors as well. So for Whip and we gotta do that again. I'm trying to throw it to you. Hold on. Okay, I'll go back. Thank you to all the other contributors as well. And for Whip and
Candace Cordelia.
There you go. See you next time on the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, aka The Whip Show. Take care, guys.
I thought something happened with this.
Thank you very much. Oh, good. Okay. And once I have everything on Twitter tapped up and on audio and everything, I'll tag you up, and I'm gonna still send you a message. And thank you again. All right.
Thank you so much, Deshaun. This was wonderful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
For sure. Take care of yourself.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.